What's going on, guys? Keegan here from Punisher's Paintball. Today, I'm bringing you, once again, another tech video. Today, we are going to be adjusting the trigger on a Shocker amp. These triggers are notoriously bad from factory, very strong pull, and kind of don't feel too good. So I'm going to show you how to adjust that if it's like your first speedball marker or something like that, and you can't figure out how. This video will show you everything you need to know about changing and adjusting your trigger. So if you guys see anything you like in this video, like the amp or the mag mat, you can find links in the description to both of these products. So we'll see you after the intro. All right, guys, so getting into this trigger adjustment video, there is 4 adjustment screws on the amp trigger, just like the XLS. It is actually the same trigger adjustment as the XLS, so if you have an XLS, you can just do the same exact thing you would do for that trigger and adjust the amp trigger. So to make things easier, I'm going to go ahead and actually remove the trigger so I can show you where exactly each screw is and do that better. I'm going to go ahead and remove the pin right here to remove the trigger. So if you want to change the trigger once new triggers are released for the amp, you can follow this as well. There is one pin here with 2 O-rings on it, just like that. I drop it, just like that. That's the pin that you need to remove the trigger. Maybe if I, right there.
Not bad.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my mag mat where it will be safe and won't go anywhere. I'm then just gonna pull out the bottom and remove the trigger just like that and set the gun aside. So here's the trigger for the amp. How it works, it is very similar to the XLS. The shape is just slightly different to fit the new trigger frame. It's pretty much the same thing, just the shape is different to fit. But let's get right into actually adjusting it. So you have 4 total screws, like I said, and you use a 1/16 Allen key to first remove the trigger, which you don't need to do to adjust it, as well as to actually adjust the trigger. So starting out, you have 2 screws on the top here. These are going to be accessed by going in below your gun right here. And those 2 screws, you're going to have the further forward, the most forward one, which is going to be right here. That one is going to be your magnet return screw. So that's going to be what pulls the trigger back into place forward to get ready for you to pull it again. That's probably going to be the one that you really want to adjust from the factory because it can be very strong. And as I can see already, it is very far up into the marker.
Yep.
So it's going to have a very strong return. Mm-hmm. Some people do like that, but personally I do not. You then are going to have your further back one, the second one in line here. That one is actually going to be the pre-travel. So pre-travel is the amount of time that it takes for you to actually pull that trigger before it finally bottoms out, or not before it finally bottoms out, but
is that before it trips the switch?
Not before it trips the switch. There's a different screw for that. However, it will adjust it in the actual marker. So if you took that pin all the way out, the trigger would actually be more forward like that. And if you were to put that screw in, it's going to lower the time. So it would make it a much shorter pull, and you could make it closer to the back of your gun. So you're going to have a very the trigger is going to be further
short pull, right?
Yeah, not even short pull, but further in to the gun versus further out. I like mine further out, more towards here. Some people like theirs in like this before, like starting out. Mm-hmm. So I hope I did an okay job explaining that.
I think you did.
The next one is going to be this one here. You access it directly through the front, just like that, and then you can change it. This is going to actually be the activation. So this adjusts how soon or how late the micro switch that actually fires the marker is going to be activated in your pull. So if you wanted it to shoot at the very beginning of your shot, then you would want to back or you would want to put this screw in. You don't want to go too far in because then it will always be activated, but you want to go in just enough so that when you hit the trigger, it's firing. If you want it to be if you want it to actually shoot later into your trigger pull, like towards the end of it, right before you bottom out, then you can back this screw all the way out, or not all the way, but for the most part, completely out until it feels good and it's late enough in your pull for you. The fourth one can be a little tricky on the marker, and this is why I wanted to take it off to kind of show you guys where it's at. It's actually going to be in between here on the, let's see, it's going to be on the left side of the gun, and you would slide your Allen key up into here, and right there, that is actually in place and ready to be turned. It is ever so slightly angled, and it is actually you're going to be your post travel. So for me, I like a shorter post travel, so my trigger pull isn't super long. So I would push, if I can get it in my hands. So personally, I like a shorter back pull. So I would push this pin in, or this screw in, and once that screw is actually pushed in, it's going to limit how far back your trigger can go. So if you push that trigger all the way in, it may not move from where it's at. If you have it like not activated at all, you're gonna have a very far back pull until it possibly hits the back of the marker, or until the top of this hits. If you have it kind of half and half, you're gonna have kind of a mediocre pull, but that is what that does. So adjusting these, let me actually throw them back into the marker, and I'll adjust it to my liking so you can see what I would do for adjusting a trigger. So first off, I'm gonna put the trigger back in the marker, same way, and here's a trick that Yasser Hanabali showed me. Great car salesman here in Ohio. If you need a Subaru, hit him up.
Buy your Subaru, buddy.
Buy your Subaru. Dublin, hit him up. He sold me my car, as well as has helped me with this issue. I actually had my XLS Trigger fall out in the middle
of a tournament
of playing for third and fourth in a tournament. Still snapped out the corner, but still is an experience. There's a picture of me out there somewhere in a video, but he showed me this trick that you can do. It doesn't seat all the way. If you take that pin out, or you use an aftermarket trigger and you switch the triggers, you are going to want to push that trigger, or you're going to want to put that pin in, and then you're going to want to take the trigger and basically force it side to side, just like this, like I'm doing here, because that actually seats it and gets that seated in place. And see, like that, I got another eighth of a turn in, and then it's seated correctly. Then that won't back itself out. So shout out to Yasser showing me that trick. Great to know, so that I don't have another trigger fall out if I use my XLS again. All right, so getting right into this. First thing I'm gonna do, for the love of God, loosen this trigger pull up. So this first pin right there, or the first trigger,
the one closest to the foregrip.
Yeah, closest to the foregrip. You're gonna want to back that out, lefty loosey, righty tighty. That's still not great. Keep going. So keep going until it's the right strength for you.
That already sounds better.
It feels better. I'm gonna go a little bit more, just like possibly like that. There we go.
Mind if I get a feel there, Keeks?
Yeah, get a feel there.
Ooh.
Makes a world of difference.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? When we do the part where we show them, like, how far back it goes till it actually engages it, you could turn it on, turn off the eyes so it can actually see how far the trigger moves, and then hear it actually click.
All right, so next portion, I'm going, like Doug said, turn the gun on. This just kind of helps you gauge. Make sure you don't have air in it, but turn your eyes off so you can kind of hear the solenoid click. I'm gonna do the pre-travel.
Here, let's show them before you adjust it. Let me see this bad boy.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about it. So
right there, pre-travel, as you can see, this right here is It's not hitting the pin until the back of the stroke, just like that. And there's a lot of travel before it. Some people like that because they can kind of stay in the trigger. I personally do not. So what I'm gonna do is there's kind of two ways that you can deal with this. One that I don't do, but a lot of people do, is they just adjust the pre-travel so it puts it about right there. So I can actually do the second pin, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. Still, that's still keep going. Keep going. And you can kind of hear, so if I go too far, which I probably will this time, I did not. So this is what happens if you go too far with your pre-travel and not backing out your screw enough. When you adjust it, Jesus, I expected it to hit it that time. Just like that, I hit it. So I bottomed it out and had it in too much. So this is a way that some people do it, where they just have it right there, very small pole, very low backstroke, just like that. Personally, not a fan, so I'm gonna back that screw out. Who's calling me?
It's a work call.
Oh. So personally, I like my trigger to be pretty far out, but I like it to hit that activation switch fairly soon into my pole, pretty much right as I touch the trigger. Mm-hmm. On my CS2, I have it so that you cannot touch my trigger without firing it. It's just how I like it. I don't like it to have all this slack, as you can see here. It's not shooting until I get to there. And there's all this travel in between. I hate that.
I don't mind a lot of slack. I'm weird.
Some people, it's kind of 50-50. A lot of people like the way that I do it. A lot of people like the way that you do it. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to adjust this one that's directly in the center of the trigger, and I'm going to push this in so that it fires that switch off sooner into the pole. So right there, as you can see, it's going a lot. Even then, it's not that soon. So I'm going to keep going a bit.
As you guys can see, this is very much a feel it out as you go kind of process. There's not really an exact like 3/4 turns to make it feel like this. You got to kind of go with it and play with it for a bit. Honestly, tuning triggers is kind of an art.
So like right there, look at that. Look at that pole right there. That
pretty good.
Is how I like it. Now, the one thing you do want to be careful of is the fact that I need this dug. Is the fact that when you adjust your trigger, if you like it further out like I do, this is bottoming out that switch. You don't really want it to bottom out that switch completely, so you actually are going to have to adjust your post travel, which is the kind of odd one that I showed you guys on the trigger, and you're going to want to bring that in if I can. You're going to want to screw that in. And so just like that, I made the back so that it couldn't go back far enough to actually fully compress that trigger. So when I'm gripping it like this, it's backing out up here, hitting the top of the frame rather than hitting inside on that switch and pressing in that switch, possibly breaking something on the board. I have it so that it's hitting up here on the actual screw that's meant for it. And that's kind of a big thing when adjusting your trigger. You can really see that. If you wanted to see which one was hitting, you can take out the grips. I'm not gonna do that because I have done enough to kind of just know. But that right there is how you adjust your shocker amp trigger. All right, guys, so if you guys liked that video, make sure to subscribe as well as follow us on our social media. Leave a comment down below. What's your preference on triggers? Do you like a later actual activation, or do you like it like me where I like it right as soon as I pull the trigger? So make sure to leave a comment, and we will see you guys in the next video.